The worst thing you can do in your fantasy draft is select a player that is a ticking time bomb. And in today's video, we're going to talk about 7 players, and we're going to talk about our level of panic from 1 to 10 and the reason why. Now, here's what I'll say. All 7 players in today's video, we did not draft in the Flock League. You can go check out that vlog that actually just released here. I love the team we put together. But all right, let's start off with Brian Robinson. My panic level is a 10 out of 10. The alarms could not be louder. The red flags, there could not be more. This is a 10 out of 10. All right, you're pushing the button. All right, so Brian Robinson, the only reason any of us were interested in drafting Brian Robinson was for 2 reasons, okay? Number 1, it seemed like he was poised to be the RB1 in Washington. Number 2, he was attached to a good offense in Washington. And now neither of those things seem to be promised anymore. Jordan Schultz recently tweeted out August 17th that the Commanders are shopping around Brian Robinson. A lot of you guys know this by now. Then in their most recent preseason game, Brian Robinson didn't play. Not only did Brian Robinson not play, Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt dominated out there, and Brian Robinson wasn't even in the building. So, Brian Robinson, a guy who had a completely mediocre second half of the season last year. From weeks 1 to 4, he was serviceable. You see that on the left side of your screen. From week 5 onwards, yes, he was dealing with an injury, but he was truly awful. Under 10 points per game. Not efficient at all. Not efficient through the air or on the ground. Every metric, he was very bad. And again, the only reasons you wanted to draft Brian Robinson, all those reasons are now in jeopardy. Think about it. If he stays in Washington, it doesn't feel like they view him as their RB1. If he leaves Washington, will he still be in a good offense? Will that team utilize him? I'm just completely out on this player at this point. I don't think there's a round he could fall to where it makes sense for you to draft Brian Robinson. By the way, that screenshot you're looking at is the comparison tool. I use it to compare Brian Robinson's beginning and end of the season, but you can compare other players as well from whatever years you want to, whatever time spans. That is just one of the tools that you get access to on the Flock Fantasy site with a 2025 season pass. With the promo code LAND, L-A-N-D, it will be just $34, one-time purchase. That's about $1.70 per week for the rest of the season. And when you buy a season pass, you get unlimited access to my rankings on the website, as well as in-season weekly and rest of season rankings, all the premium tools, start, sit, and trade question vouchers, access to my draft guide, so you have that for your home leagues, and the ability to enter real land leagues. It is the best deal the industry has ever seen. We just released a V2 of our draft guide, and it's going to be so helpful for you guys out there in your drafts. All right, the second player that I am honestly very worried about is Breece Hall. We're at an 8 out of 10 on our worry level. We already moved him down in our rankings over the past couple weeks down to RB16. I had to drop him down to RB20, and I'm not even sure if RB20 is where he should be. He might need to be even lower. Here's the deal. All offseason, there has been no synergy between Breece and the Jets. I mean, Breece Hall has said things like, they didn't choose me. I have to prove myself. He's even hinted at proving himself for some other team in free agency next year. Early in the offseason, the coaching staff, Aaron Glenn, new head coach here, said, look, Breece is in a good place, but we have 3 running backs that we are going to utilize as much as possible. And then reports come out that, they want to replicate what Detroit had with the Gibbs Monty. If you don't know, Aaron Glenn was actually the defensive coordinator there. And then Breece Hall, he had a response to that. He said, look, I'm a 3-down back. Basically a coded message saying, I can handle the rock, but I don't think I'm going to get the rock this year. Braylon Allen, meanwhile, by the way, Zach Rosenblatt from The Athletic, said he's one of the stars of camp. And that's just one report of many we've seen this entire offseason. I know that sounds similar to last year, but this is a completely different staff, so you can't just take that with a grain of salt. And recently, Albert Breer of NBC said that he believed Braylon Allen's role in the Jets offense could be pretty significant. Then after preseason action, he just said, look, that is not stopping. That train is just rolling on. Braylon is going to be involved. And then after all this talk, we finally got to see in the preseason how they were going to deploy their first team offense. In week 1, Breece Hall got just 50% of the snaps. Other guys involved with the first team, Isaiah Davis, Braylon Allen. So it isn't even just a 2-man backfield. It's a 3-way back there, not the kind you want to be a part of. And this lines up with what the coaching staff is talking about. Then in week 2, keep in mind, without Isaiah Davis in the game, he didn't play at all in week 2, but he's going to be involved. So without Isaiah Davis, Breece played just 61% of the snaps with the first team. Here's the strange part. Breece Hall, we all know, is a great pass catcher. In that game, week 2, he didn't play a single snap on third downs. That was all Braylon Allen. And as you know, a lot of that passing work for running backs comes on third downs. Here's the deal. First 2 weeks combined, Breece Hall's first team action, only 57% of the snaps, only 62% of the rushing attempt share, and about 11% target share. Keep in mind, last year, Breece Hall was dominant in a couple of these factors. Let's look at his averages from weeks 1 to 11, again, with a comparison tool on the Flock site. He was 4th in snap share, 2nd in targets, and 2nd in receiving yards amongst running backs when you look at averages. And on the goal line, he was the Jets' dude, all right? He was top 5 in percentage of team carries inside the 5-yard line at 89%. Look, I don't typically let offseason reports sway my opinions on a player, but when the drumbeat is so loud and then they follow up those words with action showing you how the first team is going to be deployed this year, it's hard to ignore. So I have moved him down a little bit down my rankings. I'm not targeting him in round 3. He's more of like a round 5 target for me. Okay. I'm sorry, we're just straight panic across the board here to start the video, but another guy, 9 out of 10 panic for Joe Mixon. I'm not sure we're going to get money bags Mixon here in 2025. I'd love to be wrong, but I'm a 9 out of 10. He dropped from my RB24 to my RB31. Full transparency, this situation is rapidly evolving. Like by the time my video editor finishes this video, maybe there's another report out and we have to have another discussion, but my own opinions have been evolving over the course of the last week as well. And one of the biggest reasons is because the guy that we trust the most on this channel as a sports doctor, Jeff Mueller, he had a lot to say about this situation. We've chatted to him before about a bunch of different players. He's never given us a reason not to trust him. And his stance on this Joe Mixon situation was that his insider information was enough to fully remove Joe Mixon from his draft board entirely. Guys, Jeff Mueller, there's a lot of people on Twitter who just say things for clicks. I followed him for a long time. There's a lot of sports doctors I don't follow because they do that. He does not do that kind of thing. He doesn't just say things for clicks or for followers or for you know, the 30 cents, whatever Twitter gives these guys. He later clarified that Joe Mixon is navigating a somewhat complicated medical issue that involves shock wave therapy. And then he talked about a group in Tampa that he's familiar with, that he's friends with, I guess, like they're in the same circles, and that those guys are working with Joe Mixon on his foot this offseason. Look, here's the deal. Joe Mixon is clearly the best running back in the Texans backfield when healthy. But if trusted doctors are saying they're completely removing him from their draft board, you're going to have to let this guy fall very far in order for his risk to be worth the reward. You do not want to burn a pick. Maybe round 9, it makes sense. But man, if you're drafting him anywhere in like the 5th or 6th round, I think that is a pick that you are just asking to be burnt. All right, you can do whatever with this information you want to do, but now you know what I'm going to do with it, okay? All right, let's talk about Christopher Godwin. Here's the good news. Finally, my panic level is only a 3 out of 10. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is if everybody's panicking, take advantage. And you might ask, Zach, how could you possibly not be worried? Emeka Egbuka is a stud. Mike Evans is still there. Well, this is the whole reason that everyone's panicked about Chris Godwin. His ankle looked really swollen in one of their photo shoots for that creamsicle jersey that they have. So here's 2 reasons that I'm not panicked. Number 1, his ADP has already fallen out of the sky. So people have already alleviated a lot of that risk for you in your drafts. He's fallen, 27 spots in the last 2 months. Godwin isn't the sexy pick anymore. That is Emeka Egbuka, who, by the way, Egbuka, on the opposite side, has risen more than 27 picks in the last 2 months in ADP as well. And look, the other reason is this team, I just know they're going to use him. They gave him a bag this year in free agency. 3 years, $66 million. They did that in March. I say all that to say, I feel like there's very little risk to be in on Godwin because of the price, because of the team commitment. And keep in mind, before his injury last year, he had higher averages than CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown in points per game, receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns, yards per target, yards per route run. Again, we are using that comparison tool on the Flock site. I use it all the time in my own research. You can get that with the 2025 season pass. Use the promo code LAND. Check out the pinned comment. It is insane that it's only $34. I mean, we might have underpriced it. But again, I think Godwin becomes a very good target in your drafts. Don't overreact. Okay, let's talk about Devon Achane. A lot of people are going to be in drafts this weekend, or maybe you were in drafts last weekend and you have him and you're not sure what to do. Do I draft Devon Achane? My panic level is a 4 out of 10, but I will say with each day it's kind of moving by a little percentage, right? Maybe 2 days ago it was a 3. In 2 days, maybe it becomes a 5. Because this situation is rapidly evolving and there's a lot of different opinions on Devon Achane. Let's be realistic about this. Let's talk about the injury. The reality is Nobody wants to draft a player in either the first or the second round that is already dealing with an injury, that you don't have a finite, type of information outcome on. So Cameron Wolfe reported that it's a soft tissue body injury and that Mike McDaniel told him it would be days and weeks. It's important to note that in this interview, Mike McDaniel said he's not concerned about Achane's availability in week 1. However, our guy Jeff Mueller, he did mention that here's how he translates that. Okay, he will be out for days, but that might add up to weeks. So it's difficult to really, it's something we need to monitor. But then more recently on a CBS Sports live stream, they had their sports injury analyst on, and he said, I do not expect him to be ready for week 1. I actually fully expect him to miss possibly the first 3 weeks of the season. Thankfully enough, I asked Jeff, hey, what do you think about this? Jeff's reply was only 3 out of 21 running backs with calf injuries have missed 3+ weeks since 2016. Basically, Jeff is trying to say he would be an outlier. Devon Achane, his situation would be a unique case if he were to miss that much time. Basically saying he didn't agree with the guy from CBS, right? So look, there's a lot of different opinions swirling around here. I don't think anyone really knows the full truth. I'm not even sure if Miami knows the truth or if Devon Achane knows exactly how long it will be. The concern is we've seen plenty of teams be dishonest with players' injuries before. CMC last year, Joe Mixon this year throughout the offseason, just a couple of examples. And the second issue is you are spending such a high pick on a player. He's going to be a first-round pick for a lot of you guys in your fantasy football draft. So look, in your fantasy drafts, it's so difficult to draft your first-round pick knowing you don't know if they're going to be available in week 1. So here's what I have done. I have moved him from my RB4 to my RB6. I put CMC ahead of him. The only reason CMC isn't RB1 in everyone's rankings is because of a potential injury. So how can I rank him below Achane, who already has an injury? That just doesn't make sense to me. And then I did put Genty ahead of him as well because I think he's going to drown in opportunities. Look, ultimately, I think you can go wherever you want to go, okay? And you'll notice in the Flock League, I did pass on Devon Achane. That's because I had a love for a different player, if you guys watched that video. But look, you can take him as high as RB4. You can miss on him. The thing is, in the first and second round, you got a lot of good players that you're probably not going to miss on. I mean, that's the one pick you really don't want to bring any risk on. But we all know the immense upside that he presents. Last year, Saquon Barkley was first in points per game at 22.2. But with Tua Tagovailoa in the lineup, Devon Achane averaged more points per game at 22.5. So he was just a dominant guy. So you're going to have to really find this one out on your own. But I might lean more towards like a Nico Collins, an Amon-Ra St. Brown, a Puka Nacua, some of these names, a CMC, Ashton Genty. But go with your gut there. All right. Malik Neighbors, this is going to be very quick. We're a 1 out of 10. We're not worried about Malik Neighbors. He's been dealing with a couple minor issues, back problem, a little bit of tightness in the back. Jeff Mueller said, look, this is just something that we need to monitor. But this isn't the only injury that he's been managing. He was also managing a toe injury that kept him out of some of those joint practices with the Jets. But keep in mind, that toe injury, that's something that he's been dealing with for years. And he played through it all last offseason. He played through it in college. If it was truly serious, they would have addressed that toe injury in the offseason. The good news is he's already back at practice. So clearly it was just like a managing issue type of situation. I mean, keep in mind, we're talking about a guy who, as a rookie, with the worst quarterback room in the NFL, made history. He's only one of 4 wide receivers in the last 2.5 decades as a rookie to have 90+ receptions, over 125 targets, and over 1,200 receiving yards. Those other names are Anquan Bolton, OBJ, and Puka Nacua. And our range of outcome tool, one of the many tools on the Flock site, shows his closest year 1 comps in the last 8 years. Here's those names: Michael Thomas, Puka Nacua, Brian Thomas, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Julio Jones. And we also get to see what those guys did in their second year. Guys, you're drafting a young Julio Jones, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. That's what you're getting with Malik Neighbors. There is no reason to panic, okay? Okay, Jalen Wright. This is a 10 out of 10. If Jalen Wright was a sleeper for you, if you thought maybe I'll take him with my last pick, he's just simply, in my opinion, not worth rostering. I would rather take a dart throw on any other name. I know he's going way down the boards, but I just don't care. I don't think Jalen Wright is the dartboard throw, the dart throw you want him to be. It was looking like he was going to be the RB2 in Miami this year, right? He was a round 4 pick last year. There's no Raheem Mostert this year, no Jeff Wilson. But the issue is he's been awful. There's no nice way to say this. He's been awful. If you look at the preseason this year, he's had 13 touches, 19 yards. Meanwhile, Ollie Gordon on 21 touches, 131 yards. And we're not just cherry picking a couple of games here. The entirety of his last season in 2024 was terrible. He was 63rd in yards per carry as a backup running back. The reality is, if Devon Achane goes down, I don't think any of us can tell you if it's going to be Jalen Wright or Ollie Gordon. So therefore, we're not drafting Jalen Wright. All right, last player we need to talk about here, Josh Downs. Look, I want to tell you, if you're going into drafts, you can draft Josh Downs with confidence. He's a 2 out of 10 on my panic meter. I can't completely ignore the injury. If you haven't heard, he did sustain a hamstring injury just days ago, but he walked off under his own power. However, he won't be active with the team until the season starts at best. Adam Hutchinson, although had some great information on this over on Twitter, he said 50% of wide receivers since 2017 with this type of injury miss between 1 to 3.5 weeks. In severe circumstances, they take 6+ weeks, but that's only 10% of the sample. So with week 1 being about 3.5 weeks away, that was very helpful information. Basically, he might not miss any time, but at most it's going to be 1 to 2 weeks. So, and the real reason I have no concern is his ADP has already fallen, right? We've already seen a slight dip in his ADP since that injury was announced. So if he can fall an entire round and be a steal for you in like the 10th round or something, I think he could be end up being a true league winner with Daniel Jones being named the starter. But those are 7 players. We've talked about whether I'm panicked or I'm not, what the level is and the rationale behind it. You're probably jumping into drafts this weekend. I hope that you go out and kill it in your fantasy football drafts. There is not a single reason why you shouldn't be able to. By the way, with our 2025 season pass, it is the best deal in the fantasy industry. Do not go into your draft completely blind, completely naked. There is so much information on our draft guide. There's so much information on the Flock Fantasy website. Check out the pinned comment. Use the promo code LAND to sign up. Only $34 for the entirety of the season. And if you want to get some best ball drafts in, get some practice in, you can check out that link in the pinned comment as well. But check out some information about FastDraft here as we end today's video. Drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Draft with me every night this offseason on the FastDraft app, where there are over $250,000 in prizes waiting to be won. Getting started is easy. Download the FastDraft app, use the promo code LAND at signup to get your deposit match up to $50. That is 10 free drafts on us. And when you finish your first real money contest, I'll send you my 2025 rookie report and season rankings completely free. Check out the link in the pinned comment to start drafting today.